partidei Delgado, acolo este, va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
I've got one. It's not a very good one.
Okay, well, you know, I believe in you. I believe in you. Go when ready. I believe in you.
I don't know the words of. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Three blind mice. Three blind mice. See how they run. They all ran after that. I can't remember the rest. Anyway, who cares? Welcome back to Val Verde Broadcasting. It's not about the song. It's about the
Jared Leto's character of Blind Wallace from the film Bladder Runway 2049.
Bladder Runway.
Bladder Runway.
Yes. So if that wasn't about, here's Richard Jackson. That's him there. That's Richard Jackson. And today we are going to discuss the film Bladder Runner 2012-85, or as it's known more colloquially, 2049. A film that we both really enjoyed, I think, right?
Yeah. Very much so.
And it seemed to get a lot of truck in the, in terms of the kind of latter day sequelizing that seems to be going on an awful lot. It was a very good one, and doesn't have.
And I was insistent upon saying, this looks terrible, this is going to be terrible. And then it came out and I really, really, really liked it. And I was like, okay, I'm wrong.
Well, because it's just in this ocean of cynical stuff, and it's a sort of, let's go back to another Harrison Ford
thing.
And
just off the back of Force Awakens and shit, so, you know.
Yeah, and everything, Terminator 12-85.
Yeah.
So it's a film that was very successful at doing that. It's probably one of the standout kind of revisits of an old. I'm not calling it a franchise. It's not a franchise. It's an old film. One thing, okay, and it's great in that it feels self-contained. It feels like it doesn't want to go anywhere else after that. It's all kind of like it's very much seems in that world, and in that way, I think it's fantastic. Lensed by the legendary Roger Deakins, as we were saying off the. And directed by
Denis Villeneuve.
Yes, of course.
Whose name I probably Denis Villeneuve. I'm really bad at French pronunciation, so
Villanelle from Killing Eve. So there you go.
Why not?
Obviously, we follow a replicant Blade Runner, which is, I like the fact that right off the bat they say no, he's a replicant and he's a Blade Runner. It very much obviously then addressing the kind of the elephant in the room that isn't addressed by the film, which is great again because that's and it's not what I love about it is it's not a film about how the Blade Runner got his spots. It's about it's not some ECO trot friggin' whatever or whatever
Blade Runner ECO trot.
Yeah, it's not that's the wrong thing I'm thinking of, but you know what I mean. It's not Aesop's fables of friggin' it doesn't. It's not trying to over-explain anything. It's just it really feels again playing in the same pool of like what do we value as humanity and all that kind of stuff. As all the classic sci-fi stuff does. It I think addresses that sort of question much better than something like Prometheus does, which tries to play in that pool. And I think,
oh my god, yeah! Like,
do you know what I mean?
Any random 5-minute sequence from 2049 is better at any of those questions than the whole of Prometheus.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
And it has the same lineage.
Yeah,
as the Ridley Scott thing.
Yeah.
Which I would say, thank fuck he didn't direct this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And I know it's a good script and he's as good as his script, but I'm so happy it's Denis Villeneuve instead. Because it's such a better job.
We did an episode on Blade Runner, and at the time I kind of agreed that it was a bit overrated and I didn't really get it and I thought it was quite boring. I've since reappraised that, and this is the power of the internet really in a way that I listened to a bunch of podcasts on it that opened my eyes up to an awful lot of stuff about it, and I kind of went back and again it's very much a film where I have to be in the mood, but I sat and I watched it sober. And beginning to end, I must point out, and I really enjoyed it. And I started seeing all the and it is a visual tour de force, and it is something to wrap yourself in and kind of immerse yourself. And I've really kind of reappraised that film. I really do like it. There's an awful lot of, I mean, it is the classic wanky film school thing to talk about, and I agree. There's a lot of.
Yeah, look, to me, as I said, I think it's a great movie and I do like it, but to me it's very much, in the film studies terms, it's your dad making you smoke a whole pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? So I'm just so worn out on it, and I'm sick of how it's held up as the ultimate film.
Right.
Which is why statement of intent, I like this one more, probably.
Right.
I just feel like it's cleaner. And it doesn't feel like this doesn't need to be re-released and tinkered with. It doesn't need to be a fucking director's cut or a theatrical cut.
No. Well, I mean, obviously, it's come out in a much more...
the circumstances...
Cleaner makes me think of poo. You feel like...
Okay.
The first one was a dirty shit. The second one's like, how much, he ate more bran on the same. Oh dear.
In fact, here we are.
I should
Here we
really
are.
be thinking
We're
more
back.
about my
We're back.
public face than talking like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's it is, and it isn't held back by all the kind of like they were trying to release it as just sort of in the kind of bearing in mind the first one's kind of coming out when Star Wars is its apex and sci-fi.
It's kind of an anti-Star Wars, isn't it?
And it's kind of like, and you got the guy from Star Wars as well, and it's sort of like a studio trying to figure out what it is and market it in a certain way. Now you've got the history of the first one having subsequently been revered, but again, that doesn't mean you will get it right automatically. The Thing in 2011, arguably had all that and didn't get it right. So I think, it acquits itself really well, and I think has managed to kind of stay part of that. It doesn't go off into crazy laser gun fights. It's very much part of that world. It expands on it. It looks like a much bigger world as well. It's been much more expansive in terms of, I know because they can now, but it's like it's just things like putting it. And I saw what's the guy. The guy who Adam something who makes things and blows them up. What's that show called?
Adam Savage.
Yeah, he did a thing with the guys who made the
Tested.
Made the props for Blade Runner. It's on YouTube. You go check it out on his channel, I guess. And just looking at all the ways they made all the props for this stuff, they really, really had a thing of like everything has to work, everything has a purpose, everything sort of in that. It's designed in that Blade Runner way, but it's like everything's tactile, everything. So they put the way they put the camera, like in the opening stuff when he's driving or flying along in his car, and it's like the rain streaming up there. Everything is very much like lived in and tactile, and there's the world itself has a weight that I think is absent from a lot of things nowadays. So I think it's frustrating because it feels like it's come out in a tide of stuff that it just has. It's kind of been lost in. Like people aren't talking about it,
and it didn't do amazingly at the box office either.
Right.
It's kind of like this 3-hour-long ponderous sci-fi sequel, I'm kind of ambivalent about Blade Runner 1. Blade Runners 2 to 2048 I really liked. I'm done a funny. What I really like about this film is it takes on a lot of the kind of concerns of the first Blade Runner, which are about identity and memory and the formation of memories and things like that. Mm-hmm. As you touched upon, you come straight out and go, K is a replicant. And that's it, you're just told straight off, he's a replicant and he's a replicant Blade Runner. And things have changed slightly, there's kind of a bit of a text crawl. Things have changed, and it basically comes straight out and says, you're not going to be wondering whether or not this guy's a replicant, that's been done. Yeah. What I think is really good about it is, because I think of there's the theatrical cut, the director's cut, and then there's like another cut, and then the final cut, This is a sequel to all of those.
Yes, that's true.
It somehow is a sequel to all 4 versions, or however. I've got the fucking box set, so I'm in a tedious situation. but it's a sequel to all of them because it's ambiguous about a lot of stuff, but it ignores all that, but also deals with it, and it also inverts that premise because what we find out halfway through is that Kay might be human. So it takes that whole thing and turns it on his head that he might be a kind of half. Human, half replicant baby, but then we're introduced again to the concept of implanted memories, and they've implanted. He was used essentially as a pawn to hide Rachel and Deckard's daughter. Right. So, but then also as well, he kind of functionally is their child because he has their child's memories up to a point. Right. So he has this kind of weird, ambiguous relationship with Deckard, where it's kind of like, well, you're sort of my son, but you almost certainly aren't. Mm. I love all of that. I thought it was really good. And in terms of coping with, or at least discussing like issues of memory and perception, there are whole bits like, so Deckard lives, we're never told whether or not Deckard's a replicant. They hint either way, but it doesn't really matter. It's not about that. Yeah. Rachel's gone, Rachel's dead, right? So, but we always knew she was a replicant anyway. Yeah. Sounds like she died in childbirth, but he lives in like this gutted shell of Las Vegas, and all the cinematography and stuff there is incredible, all these kind of vistas and shit. But there's that whole sequence when he meets Deckard is all in and around concepts of broken, misrepresented, or contained memories.
Right.
So there's like a Frank Sinatra hologram in a jar.
Yeah.
It's a jarred memory.
Right.
And
right.
you know, his daughter creates and packages, she authors memories.
Right.
And there's a pre-packaged memory just sat on the desk in there. It's like great visual storytelling.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a fucking metaphor. How about that, Hollywood? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And when they're fighting in kind of the theatre, it's an Elvis performance.
That's right.
But it's broken and corrupted and janky.
Yeah.
So like, both these men who are possibly the product of implanted memories are fighting against the backdrop of this kind of glitching, broken ghost.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
neither of them, you know, there are lesser filmmakers would have one of them go, you know, this is sort of like our inattention. Yes, I agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's
definitely.
really, really nice. And they even have the kind of, what is it he says when he goes like, he shows his dog, he goes like, is it real? And he goes like, why don't you ask him?
Yeah.
You know, it's all these little thrown away bits, little single lines in a 3-hour movie that just sort of take all of that tension from the first Blade Runner, and a lot of it is caused by the shitty re-edits and whatever. It's caused by the fact that's a vexed film.
Yeah.
It's a vexed piece of fiction.
Yeah.
And it just goes like, does it matter? You know.
And the frustrating thing is that it's a great way to comment on that in hindsight as well, because it's like all the things that people I think have focused on about that movie in the kind of pop culture way anyway have been the most perfunctory thing. It's like, is it a replica? Is it not? Oh, look at it. It's like, it's not the point. It's not the point. Like the whole point is that it's supposed to be ambiguous. Obviously, then that they didn't like it being ambiguous, so they started finding. And Ridley Scott himself has said, has he said yes? I can't remember.
I think Ridley Scott says, I can't remember. It's conflicting because I think Scott says yes, but then Hampton Fancher says no.
I mean, it's pretty clear to me from my recent reappraisal of that film that he is, because it's like a lot. Obviously, there's the unicorn memory thing.
I assume but did you watch the final cut?
Yeah, whatever the last one was.
Because that's more geared towards it because it's recut by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And what's his name is the.
Edward James Olmos.
Yeah, he's the Blade Runner, actually.
Yeah,
And
because
it's not-
Gaff knows
Gaff
that's why he's given him
Yeah.
the unicorn.
Because he goes around doing that with other ones, doesn't he? He puts their memory in a origami and gives it to them. So it's like, well, you know.
And Gaff is back in this. They give him a
Yes,
which is kinda nice.
yes. I must watch it again because I, you know, full disclosure, I've only seen it once, and I have it, so I should watch it again. But it's, yeah. I mean, where does he? Because he explains to me, like Ryan Gosling's character finds the unicorn in like an old furnace or something.
Well, that's like I think that is actually a horse rather than a unicorn because it's like a little kind of wooden toy one.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that's the kind of key to the implanted memories. So Rachel and Deckard's daughter was being chased by kids that I think went to take it from her, so she hid it in the furnace.
Oh, okay.
And because he has her memories, he
Right.
goes to the furnace, he takes it out, and then that's when it's kind of like, oh shit, am I that kid?
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, again, the tension that just going, he is a replicant. I love that. When I sat down in the cinema, I was kind of like, good, no, and then it introduces this kind of ambiguity where it's like he might be human. It's kind of that's quite clever, but then it very unequivocally goes, no, he isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't give a shit about your fan theories
Yeah.
or your spin-offs. You know, it just kind of
Yeah.
buttons that up.
Yeah.
You know.
What of Jared Leto's? Essentially, because he's the
He's the new Tyrell, isn't he?
Tyrell,
He's called
yeah.
Wallace, yeah. So something that they've done in the fiction of Blade Runner is that everything got wiped clean after a big system crash.
like a poo.
Like got wiped clean, like the anus of future LA. Oh, you know, as of what is it? I think it's as of yesterday or the day before. Blade Runner now takes place in the past, or it might be as of the 1st of December, because all it says is November 2019, right? Is the original Blade Runner. So I think at the end of this month, it no longer takes place
No, there
in
is
the
a
future.
date. No, someone said
Oh,
the
is
date.
there?
Yeah,
There
because
is
I
a
think
date.
it's in obviously a screen.
So
or
it's
something.
just happened or something.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah. So LA
It's like
2019.
23rd or something. I think it was. Anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, what I kind of like also, there's a kind of fictional break in the world, and that's about erasure of kind of digital memory because all the records have been lost and stuff, and there's a few bits that they're able to recover. And the world is different now because it's kind of still dirty but still a lot cleaner, because like the police office in the old one is all cigarette smoker film noir, but now it's all kind of sterile and clean.
Yes, yeah, and who better to get than Robin Wright as a kind of
She's great.
waspy McWasp type.
Yeah.
You know, so she's fantastic. Yeah, really, really great.
Yeah, stoic cop lady. It's really good. The bit when so the kind of Wallace's enforcer is called Love, and she's got that horrible, blank sociopath face, and when she sort of like just crushes her hand with the glass.
Oh yeah.
When she kills Robin Wright, it's fucking horrible.
That's right.
It's
Oh, God,
so
yeah.
nasty.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to outside the window, and I think she kind of stabs her a few times.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I digress a little bit. So Jared Leto plays Wallace, who is kind of essentially the new Tyrell, to all intents and purposes, and he's improved replicant designs and he wants to get the hands on the secret of having a pregnant replicant reproduce and stuff. And there's a replicant resistance, and it's like, oh well, we take control of our own destiny if we can reproduce, we're not just machines and stuff like that.
I like that he's a pretentious arse.
Yes.
Because that again, there's a lot of sort of meta commentary on the first film in that like he's the new architect, if you like, of stuff, and it's like he's this waffling, pretentious twat who obviously enjoys the power of life over death a lot, and even to the point of like, doesn't he shoot the new Rachel?
Love shoots Rachel,
right?
Or fake Rachel, and also he births that one.
Yeah,
gives it a pretentious lecture and then kind of guts it.
Yeah,
it's fucking horrible.
Which is awful. So he's a prick. Clearly, but it's kind of like that in a way is sort of talking about, and the fact that you say it's this sort of broken thing where there's memories are busted and stuff like that. It's almost like saying, look, we're that far on from the first film. Our memory of the first film is like this. It's like hazy and not really put together properly, and the way people remember it isn't what it was, and all that kind of thing. So that's clever.
And it's impossible to remember definitively because they never, there's, we've got the final cut, but they haven't really. I'm sure the official line is it follows the final cut. But it exists in the pop culture as this kind of already fractious thing. And then the film deals with that because it's like we don't have video of that, but they play the kind of, they have a bit of audio from the Voight-Camp thing. Yeah. And Rachel comes out and he's like, her eyes were green or whatever. Yeah. So they've broken memories because the whole first film is a broken memories. Yeah. It doesn't exist properly in a consistent form. You can say similar things about Star Wars and stuff, but nothing in those kind of outward Star Wars films really changes the plot horribly. Greedo shot first, whatever the fuck, but it's a vexed kind of thing, and the film deals with that. Okay, maybe not head on, but it deals with it. Yeah, it's really important.
Well, it doesn't put it centre stage because that would ultimately be that's one of the things that hamstrings all these sequels. It's like, oh, we're finally going to get the answer to that. You don't really want the answer because whatever they do, it will be unsatisfying. We've had like Prometheus is. I'm sorry to use it as the whipping boy. Sorry, Ridley, but it kind of is. Like it's kind of like no one wanted answers to it, and those answers aren't really the answers we wanted.
It's nice that the two belated Ridley Scott sequels show you how you should and shouldn't do this. Yeah. And ironically, the ones he directed himself are the ones how he shouldn't. Yeah. Because by the time you meet Deckard, you don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. No. It doesn't matter if he's a replicant or not. What difference does it make? Yeah. So he's an open-ended life replicant. So what? Yeah. So what?
So it's just a person then, really. I mean, that's not
exactly
what difference is that?
Either their daughter is a half human, half replicant, or it's a replicant baby. The implications are the same. It's reproduction of replicants. It doesn't matter. And then I love that idea about like, is the dog real? And he goes like, why don't you ask him? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because what use is that?
Why don't you ask?
Jesus,
even got a lifetime supply of whiskey or something. He sits up there.
And they do sit around boozing, don't they?
That was my thing. I was just like, that sounds fucking awesome. If the end of the world's happened and you were just sat there in the crumbling ruins, where better than Las Vegas?
Sit in Vegas just drinking whiskey with your dog forever. Yeah.
It's done.
With Frank Sinatra in a jar.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I need to digress massively. The one thing I would I wouldn't really change any of it. The one thing I would take out is probably like Wallace. It's like someone needs to be in that space. Yeah. But it kind of feels like, I mean, does that character really need to be there though? Because then couldn't there be something else? Because it does feel a lot like, here's your new Tyrell. Yeah. It's a bit like, here's your new Tyrell. You need the new Tyrell.
And he's a bit more sort of Steve Jobsian in that he's got his little ear things in, and he's a bit.
Yeah, he's blind, isn't he? So he's got those kind of drones that swing around him. Like, I sort of a little. I don't want to just like, rag on Jared Leto, which I do a lot, but like, he doesn't really need to be there. You could have substituted something else. Yeah. But then again, it doesn't break the film for me whatsoever.
No. I mean, I think, like I say, I think it suits it in a way. Like, if you have to have that gun to your head, if you've got to have that character, and you kind of do, unfortunately. You've got to
that's the thing. It's like, what would you fill? I'm not bold enough to say what I'd fill that void with. Yeah. I mean,
unless you, the fact that we're introducing Deckard's kind of relationship to creators and the tyrant, you know, what needs to be the kind of face of the corporation, what makes replicants, then yeah, you have to, because there was always that thing in the first one as well, because it's like a pyramid and it's like getting to the top of the pyramid to fight the evil genius, you know, the guy sat at the top kind of thing, and so it was always the face of the company. So I guess it kind of has to be. What's the company called in this? Is it still Tyrell, or is it?
No, I think it's called Wallace. So I think it's like a double barreled like Wallace something.
It's always got to be like their name thing, hasn't it? So it's kind of yeah. Now what's the connective tissue? Because there supposedly is tissue between Blade Runner and Alien. What's the?
There's some kind of in one of the two movies. It must be in Blade Runner because that came second. There's a shot of a screen somewhere, and I think it's an email between like Weyland-Yutani and Tyrell or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, keeping in mind that Blade Runner would seem to be set significantly earlier than Alien.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I think they've given us. I don't know what the year Alien's set, but we know now, don't we? I guess.
Yeah.
It makes
well,
sense.
it's 2019 is Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, yeah. But Alien.
Alien's. It's like 28, because I remember all this came out when Prometheus came out, because everyone was like, it's only like 20 years later or something, and then you're supposed to have this fossilised thing. It was all like a
fucking other discussion, isn't it?
yeah.
Let's do an episode on that, actually, I suppose, come to think of it. It seems a bit obvious.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Ridley Scott chose as his venue to wank off about robots. He chose the Alien films. And it's
of
all the things, and then when someone else does Blade Runner, they do a much better job of addressing all the same concepts, except there's aliens running around.
Yeah.
You know, I just think it's so much better. I know he like exec produced it and stuff. I mean,
what's that mean though, really?
Well, precisely, yeah. The joke that I think Red Letter Media made was Blade Runner runtime 49 minutes because it's long as shit. And again, I rail against films being long unnecessarily. This is very still very slow, but I think it works for this. I mean, I watched it in two chunks, like Channel 4 putting on Gone with the Wind. Do you know what I mean? I watched it one half and I watched it over 2 nights. Though I watched it in the cinema initially. When I was in the cinema, the whole as a mood piece and an atmosphere piece, and the way it's quite minimal in dialogue for a lot, I found it really engaging. I was really engaged with the characters and the world, and part of that is the music, part of that is the cinematography by Rich Deakins, of course, part of that is the effect. The whole thing as a package just made me kind of sink into it and enjoy it and not question it.
I think that's what that is when it's on a good day. That's what the first one is as well.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's really how you're supposed to experience it, and just let it wash over you, kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's an overall experience, not just a story, right? It's a kind of mood and
there's also there is all the metaphor and all the kind of it is an example of visual storytelling, but it's like I do think you can't go into it wanting sci-fi blockbuster stuff. And it never was that, and I think this one manages to just stay. It amps it up slightly in all the right areas. It sort of just manages to push up certain things. It doesn't
like a
dwell.
push-up bra.
Yes, it is the Wonder Bra of cinema. I think it manages to sort of still have like it has a fight with Dave Bautista at the start, and people are thrown through walls, and there's all sorts of like the action, if you like, is bigger and brasher and all that stuff, but it's never at the detriment of the story or the characters. Like, it always feels very much part of. It's
often got some kind of intimate thread to it as well. So like when they shoot down his spinner, he's with Joy, and it's like, okay, it's vaguely spectacular. Most it's about that kind of vista, but it's about a crashing car, and she's like worried for him, and she's in danger, he's in danger. It's not about like, here's a truck flipping over. When he fights Dave Bautista, like it's really intimate, and it's you're hunting your own kind and stuff, but it's this kind of really quite nasty fist fight because he's on top of him. And
it's the way it just suddenly happens. Like it's kind of like
there's no music, just completely kind of diegetic sound, and he shouldn't be able to beat Dave Bautista because he's half his size, but he's the newer model. He just kind of caves his head in and takes his eye.
And it's a guy who's just literally his farm or whatever going about. I mean, that's always been that in a nutshell is what is so harsh about the kind of replicant retirement thing. Is it's like he's just trying to live out a little life. He's not hurting anyone.
Farm. He's not hurting anyone. Yeah. And all he's done is help his friends escape, and that's not even why they come to retire him. They just retire him because he's a replicant. And the lady from the replicant resistance force or whatever, she's had her eye plucked out, and the destroying eyes and cameras and stuff is a big metaphor in the first movie that's done it, and that's what Roy Batty does to Tyrell.
Very quickly, obviously there's all the stuff with the virtual girlfriend thing. Is it Anna de Armas or whatever she's in other things as well. She's in Knives Out, which has just come out actually. That's great.
Yeah.
She's going to be in No Time to Die. But she's the kind of the holographic, girlfriend to the replicant, sort of thing. And then that a lot was kind of made of that at the time, and it's kind of it is a thing that's been done before. Obviously, Sixth Day, he has a
but the interesting thing is here that neither of them are real.
Yeah.
But then again, what's real? Because she has no corporeal form.
Yeah.
But when you're creating artificial life, if she has a mind, what makes her any less real than him?
Yeah.
Because he's not really either real.
Yeah.
So like there's a kind of I think it shows a hierarchy of where you are as an AI.
Right.
Because like, if you're a replicant, you're below a human. But if you're a hologram, you're below a replicant.
Yeah.
And then when she dies, so to speak, he has to sort of like see again her kind of ghost. But it's an interactive billboard that comes and says how great they could be together, and it's just like, oh, jeez, that's heartbreaking. But then he plays it. I think a lot of his casting here may have been because of how he played Drive, because in Drive he's kind of like, I think he's supposed to be autistic or something. He's got this kind of very low emotional register in the kind of popular sort of autistic concept.
Well, I don't know, that's never spoken of in the film. I think made broadly, it was a thing about the kind of the stoic gunslinger type man who's just
but there's a whole other level of it in Drive. I think I
never got the autistic thing. Maybe.
I mean, looking at it,
it's an oft talked about thing. I mean, obviously something like The Accountant literally talks about
movie autism as well is often kind of shown as a superpower, which I find quite distasteful, and I think there's a bit of that in Drive. But anyway, the Drive, the idea is that he's kind of outwardly, he's kind of emotionally a bit blank, but clearly things hurt him. Things mean stuff to him. He bleeds. So that he has to cope with the bereavement. And again, it's about layers of kind of reality and perception, but also, what's real, what makes her. Because her whole thing is that she's attached to that projector, and then when he gets the kind of emote remitter thing, which is from Red Dwarf and Star Trek Voyager and all things about holograms, take that leap. She joins him, and she's programmed to love him, so it's fake. But then, what makes him so real?
Replicate. I mean, it's always a bit ambiguous, but in a way, like what makes them different? They're not clones because they're kind of made.
But they seem to be made out of meat.
But they are meat. Yeah, it's weird. It's like the kind of androids in Alien, to a lesser degree.
Milk.
But it's like a replicant is because there's lots of microscope shots of like where they've got branding.
I love showing serial numbers and branding.
Like in their cells.
Because in the snake, isn't it? In the first one.
So it's. I gather that they are. What makes them different from like a clone is that it's almost like they're 3D printed, but they are still flesh and blood.
And they're programmed. Because it's odd that I wonder what because the Philip K. Dick novel is and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and they are more specifically kind of roboty.
Right.
Hello. Hi, I'm a Blade Runner.
Guy. Come in my house.
Would you like oil?
That's a Dave Bautista. How have we missed this? Anyway.
Too late now.
Whoever's playing Val Verde Bingo is having a grand old time. There's some kind of constructed, organic-ish meat creature things. It's kind of hard to...
And again, best left ambiguous. Because that way it allows for things like Roy Batty when his hands, and it's like he can't, and it's like, and all that. It's like because you want them to be as human as possible, really. Because what you're dealing with is like people who've had artificially limited lives and just been built to serve and be essentially cannon fodder for certain things. And it's like that's awful, But it's kind of like which is the Simpsons where it's like the robots going like, why was I programmed to feel pain? Why did you do that? Why did you what was useful about making them human but like not, you know what I mean? Like why?
Yeah, what's the gain of this other than to make existential fiction out of it?
Arguably. But I mean it's definitely a film I would say if you haven't seen it, definitely go and check it out. If you're a Blade Runner fan or you're Blade Runner adjacent, that is to say, you're someone who kind of seen it, thought it was alright, didn't get what the fuss was about, I still say go check out 2049. And then definitely I would say reappraise Blade Runner because there is a lot there to like, and I think once you get past the kind of retrospective hype that has been kind of bestowed upon it and just to try and sort of enjoy it for what it is and see all the allegory and everything, but don't go beyond that. I do think it's worth looking at. But go seek it out. It's on Netflix in the UK for now. But as soon as I say that, I know the Netflix goblins are going.
Well, when Disney buys Warner's,
Pull the plug.
I guess whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, who knows? But definitely go check it out. I would say it's worth a watch if you're in any way kind of cinephilically inclined. Is that a thing? I don't know.
It is now.
Wow. Anyway, so social media down there, all that shit under there. Great, go check it out. Thanks so much for coming. Okay, bye. Subscribe. Bye. Okay, bye.
Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Val Verde Shop.